The series begins by introducing Fong Yu, a fierce and beautiful martial artist. One morning, she encounters her grandfather, Fong Shua, who suggests she take over the family business. But Fong Yu has other plans. She dreams of becoming a professional MMA fighter. At the same time, she proudly shows him her acceptance letter from a prestigious university she's planning to attend. The scene then shows Meng Tian, a kind-hearted young man with a gentle soul. Though he dislikes violence, he works hard to care for his two younger siblings, as their parents are no longer with him. One day, Meng Tian's boss gives him an extra task, delivering an order to a loyal customer. His boss then praises Meng Tian's dedication, making him a favorite among the employees. As a result, Meng Tian quickly hops on his bicycle and heads off to make the delivery. As he speeds downhill, Meng Tian notices an elderly woman struggling as her cart full of goods rolls away uncontrollably. Without a second thought, Meng Tian rushes to chase after the cart. Just then, Fong Yu appears, walking from the opposite direction, and the runaway cart is headed right toward her. In one swift motion, Fong Yu kicks the cart to a stop. Meng Tian is stunned by her strength, while the elderly woman is upset, but Fong Yu seems unfazed. Calmly, she hands money to the woman to cover any damage and walks on. It turns out Fong Yu is on her way to visit her martial arts master. Coincidentally, Meng Tian arrives at the same place to complete his delivery, only to find that Fong Yu's master is the customer he's delivering to. They bump into each other again, but Fong Yu remains distant and unapproachable. A short time later, fate brings them together for a third time near a fountain. Unaware of each other's presence, they both silently make wishes, tossing coins into the water. Back in his hometown, Meng Tian receives exciting news, an acceptance letter from a university. He's thrilled, but also concerned about supporting his siblings in a new city. Fortunately, his boss offers support, introducing him to a friend who promises to help Meng Tian find a job in the new location. Soon, Meng Tian moves to the city with his siblings and rents a modest home. His routine remains steady, working, caring for his siblings, and now attending classes at the university. On his first day on campus, Meng Tian notices something unusual. Many female students greet and compliment him, but he doesn't see any male students around. Eventually, he spots an announcement explains that he's the only male student at the university, making him the sudden focus of all the female students' attention. Overwhelmed, he escapes to a nearby park to catch his breath. In the park, he unexpectedly runs into Fong Yu for the fourth time. Intrigued but proud, Fong Yu doesn't hold back, and they quickly get into a heated argument. During the argument, Meng Tian ends up injured, but instead of apologizing, Fong Yu coldly offers him money as compensation, leaving Meng Tian feeling humiliated. Meng Tian then brings up her earlier behavior with the elderly woman, which leads to another intense clash. This time, Fong Yu explains her actions. She had kicked the cart to stop it from injuring a nearby child. Not long after, Meng Tian finally settled into his first college class, but he found it nearly impossible to concentrate. As the only male student, he drew all the attention, with his female classmates constantly glancing his way. Meanwhile, Fong Yu was lost in memories of her childhood. Her parents had desperately wanted a son and raised her as if she were a boy, even dressing her in boys' clothes. This continued until her younger brother, Fong Zhou, was born, finally allowing her to be herself. Later that evening, Meng Tian overheard his younger brother, Meng Lang, talking in his sleep. Meng Lang was murmuring about a famous MMA fighter known as the Queen, someone he idolized. Meng Tian realized that this queen was none other than Fong Yu. The memories of his previous encounters with her came rushing back. The runaway cart incident, her cold and aloof attitude, and their clash at the park. As he recalled the intensity in her eyes, Meng Tian was unexpectedly reminded of his own mother, who had left him with his father when he was young. The exact details of those difficult family moments remained unclear, but the emotions stirred deeply within him. The next day, Meng Tian decided to take action. He wanted to visit the campus administration to address a few issues, particularly the glaring absence of a men's restroom. But his real reason for wanting to leave was to avoid any further run-ins with Fong Yu. Upon meeting with Lu Kai, the campus official, Meng Tian mentioned the restroom issue. To his surprise, Lu Kai handed him a work order confirming that a men's restroom had been built, and what's more, it was marked with a silhouette of Meng Tian's face on the door. Meng Tian was left speechless by the attention he was receiving. Still determined to leave, Meng Tian requested to withdraw from the university. Lu Kai agreed, but with a condition. He would have to submit his withdrawal letter in a designated mailbox inside a certain building. Thinking this would be a simple task, Meng Tian set off, only to encounter a series of unexpected challenges. The building was guarded by several female fighter students, making it nearly impossible to reach the mailbox without a struggle. At first, Meng Tian managed to get past several of the students, skillfully dodging their attacks. However, he was ultimately overpowered when one of his opponents landed a powerful kick. Defeated, Meng Tian returned to Lu Kai, frustrated with the ordeal. Seeing Meng Tian's disappointment, Lu Kai made him an offer, a significant tuition discount for an extended period if he chose to stay. The offer intrigued Meng Tian, and he decided to give campus life another chance. Back in class, Meng Tian quickly realized that his fellow students seemed distracted, barely paying attention to the lecture. It seemed he was the only one interested in what the professor had to say. The campus head, Xiao Zeng, also noticed how unfocused the female students seemed around Meng Tian. Deciding a change was needed, Xiao Zeng aimed to recruit another male student, hoping to balance the campus dynamic. Soon after, the school released a brochure promoting their success in combat sports, highlighting their achievements in taekwondo, karate, and boxing, all led by their strong female students. Among them, Fang Yu, the queen of MMA, was widely recognized. At this university, all students were required to join a sports club. Meng Tian, unsure where he'd fit, wandered around to observe. One day, he noticed a crowd gathered around a boxing ring where a practice match was taking place. At that moment, Fang Yu was sparring with Xiaomi, her friend and the head of the boxing club. Watching the intense match between these two skilled fighters, Meng Tian was suddenly reminded of his father, who had been a boxer. But these memories weren't happy ones, and he quickly left, not wanting to dwell on the past. Fang Yu, however, noticed his brief appearance and thoughtful departure. Later, while delivering an order, Meng Tian spotted a young boy being dragged away by a group of rough-looking guys. Meng Tian stepped in, pretending to know the boy to divert the gang's attention. The boy managed to escape, but Meng Tian paid the price, taking a beating from the thugs, who also damaged his delivery. Bruised and helpless, he watched the mess unfold. Just then, Fang Yu and her friends happened to pass by. Unaware of their martial arts background, the thugs were in for a surprise as the group swiftly stepped in and defended Meng Tian. After the thugs retreated, one of Fang Yu's friends, Yan'an, rushed to Meng Tian's side, holding his arm in a show of affection. Fang Yu, watching this, seemed slightly irritated. Ignoring her annoyance, she then suggested Meng Tian consider joining the martial arts club. However, he politely declined, thanking them before hurrying off to complete his deliveries. When Meng Tian finally reached his customer, he found the package was damaged from the earlier fight. The customer was furious and scolded him harshly. Just then, Fang Yu arrived and immediately intervened, reprimanding the customer, who, to Meng Tian's surprise, was actually her younger brother, Fang Zhou. With Fang Yu's help, Meng Tian was once again saved from trouble. Later that evening, Meng Tian returned home to find his younger siblings upset because he had forgotten to bring their favorite food. He thought about ways to stretch his limited funds to meet their wishes. Meanwhile, Fang Yu sat in her room, reflecting on the day. She grew frustrated as she recalled Yan'an holding Meng Tian's hand. The next morning, Fang Yu visited the grave of Uncle Ji Mian, a man she deeply respected and who had shown her kindness when she was young. After paying her respects and leaving, Meng Tian arrived at the same grave to honor Uncle Ji Mian, unaware that he shared this connection with her. After the fight the previous day, Fang Yu and her friends were called in by the campus authorities and given a punishment for their involvement. Meng Tian, who hadn't received any punishment and had been shielded by his friends, felt uneasy about the situation. Grateful for their help, he approached the campus official Lu Kai and asked to be held accountable since the fight had ultimately been because of him. Impressed by his honesty, Lu Kai came up with a unique solution. Instead of a traditional punishment, he assigned the girls to train Meng Tian in martial arts, reasoning that they couldn't risk losing their only male student. Yan'an, one of Fang Yu's friends, was delighted with the decision, taking the opportunity to shower Meng Tian with attention, while Fang Yu watched with a silent, irritated expression. A few days later, Fang Yu devised a bold idea for Meng Tian's training. She posted an announcement of a martial arts duel between them on the campus bulletin boards. Meng Tian was baffled when girls all over campus started cheering him on for a fight he hadn't agreed to. When Meng Tian learned about the duel, he confronted Fang Yu, objecting to the match, saying he had no time for such things. Fang Yu had initially hoped he might appreciate her efforts, but instead, they ended up bickering, and Meng Tian stormed off. At that moment, Xiaomi, noticing that Fang Yu was starting to develop feelings for Meng Tian, tried to cheer her up and suggested they go to his workplace to apologize. Unfortunately, Meng Tian had already quit that job after the earlier fight. Determined to make things right, Fang Yu remembered how the thugs had damaged Meng Tian's bicycle. She went to the nearest bike shop and bought the most expensive bike they had as a gift for him. As she left the shop, Fang Yu admired the bike and imagined Meng Tian's reaction, smiling to herself at the thought. Realizing how much she was thinking about him, she quickly shook off her thoughts. Meanwhile, Meng Tian had found a new job as a clown at a cafe, earning a small but steady income. Wanting to deliver the bike, but feeling shy, Fang Yu turned to Xiaomi for help. Xiaomi, recognizing Fang Yu's growing interest in Meng Tian, refused to help, insisting that Fang Yu deliver the bike herself. Reluctantly, Fang Yu agreed, and together, they made their way to Meng Tian's home. When they arrived, Fang Yu's face fell slightly as she saw Yan'an already there. Meng Tian welcomed all three girls inside. His younger brother, Meng Lang, was thrilled to meet his idol, Fang Yu, and both siblings enthusiastically invited the girls to join them for a card game. The room was soon filled with laughter, and Fang Yu found herself laughing freely and feeling at ease. The fun was interrupted when a cockroach suddenly appeared, sending everyone into a panic as they scrambled around. In the chaos, Meng Tian accidentally lifted a frightened Fang Yu off the ground. Realizing what he'd done, he quickly set her down, nearly causing her to stumble. After the chaos, Fang Yu invited Meng Tian outside for a private conversation, where she proudly presented the new bike she had bought as a gift for him. But to her surprise, Meng Tian politely declined, explaining that it wasn't practical for his delivery work. Frustrated and hurt by his refusal, Fang Yu left abruptly, urging her friends to leave with her. Back inside, Meng Lang was thrilled after meeting Fang Yu and asked Meng Tian if he could join his school's taekwondo club. Meng Tian, however, became upset and refused, his mind flashing back to painful memories of their mother leaving. He remembered how his father had accidentally caused an opponent's death in a fight, a tragedy that had partly driven their mother away. Meanwhile, Fang Yu found herself replaying her encounters with Meng Tian, becoming annoyed at herself for thinking about him so much. Determined to push these feelings aside, she forced herself to focus on other things. The next day, Fang Yu and Meng Tian were called in by the university for arranging an unauthorized match, and as punishment, they were assigned to clean the campus swimming pool together. Initially, they worked quietly, but as time went by, they grew more at ease, playfully splashing each other and laughing. Observing this, the supervising staff decided to tie their legs together to prevent any further fooling around, urging them to complete the task seriously. With their legs bound, they continued cleaning, but eventually the task wore them out. Soon after, they sat down to rest, legs still tied together, and without realizing it, Meng Tian drifted off to sleep. Fang Yu glanced at him, feeling a mix of curiosity and warmth, and mustered up the courage to lean in for a closer look. Suddenly, Meng Tian stirred, waking up to find her watching him. Embarrassed, they both looked away, and Fang Yu quickly excused herself, leaving Meng Tian slightly stunned. Confused by her emotions, Fang Yu wandered around campus until she overheard two friends discussing the signs of falling in love. To her surprise, everything they described resonated with her feelings toward Meng Tian. She placed her hand on her chest, recalling the moments they'd shared, and realized, despite herself, that she couldn't get him out of her mind. A little while later, Meng Tian and his younger brother ran into Yi Chun, a former school bully who had tormented Meng Tian in the past. Unexpectedly, Yichen demanded Meng Tian kneel as he used to. To avoid conflict, Meng Tian complied and then quietly left, but his younger siblings watched in disappointment. Meng Lang, especially, asked how Meng Tian could protect them if he couldn't defend himself. Meng Tian returned home, reflecting on his brother's words, which echoed Fang Yu's earlier advice. Inspired, he resolved to train in martial arts to protect the people he cared about. Determined, Meng Tian joined the boxing club, training directly with Xiaomi and even signing up for a tournament to prove his newfound strength. During this time, Yichen approached him again, but this time, Fang Yu appeared, stepping in to defend him. The encounter ended without incident, and Meng Tian quickly left, while Fang Yu felt self-conscious, wondering if she had revealed her feelings too openly. Just as she was pondering her emotions, Xiaomi approached, catching her off guard but helping her regain her composure. Some time later, Fang Yu and her younger brother, Fang Zhou, were invited to a fancy restaurant for dinner with their grandfather, Fang Shua. His goal was to introduce Fang Yu to the son of his business associate, hoping to arrange a marriage. To Fang Yu's surprise, Meng Tian was there as well, working as a waiter. Fang Yu was taken aback, but tried to keep her composure. During the dinner, Fang Yu excused herself from the table, feeling uncomfortable around the young man, Guan Yin, whom her grandfather was trying to introduce. She remembered a past incident when Guan Yin had humiliated her in front of their friends. Sensing her discomfort, Guan Yin followed her and attempted to charm her. Meng Tian, passing by, overheard their conversation and noticed how uneasy Fang Yu was. Learning that Guan Yin had been a bother to her since childhood, Meng Tian saw an opportunity to get back at him. He accidentally spilled a drink on Guan Yin's clothes. Though it earned Meng Tian a quick dismissal from his job, he shrugged it off, pretending it didn't bother him. When Fang Yu approached Meng Tian to thank him, he insisted he hadn't done it on purpose, but she saw through his lie, leaving him at a loss for words. As a thank you, Fang Yu invited Meng Tian to dinner. They went to a cozy spot owned by their mutual friend, Sun Hao, the only other male student on campus. At first, Fang Yu seemed unfamiliar with the commoner's food, but soon found herself enjoying it heartily. The casual setting allowed them to relax, and they grew closer, each catching themselves blushing. Later, back at home, Fang Zhou noticed his sister's unusual mood and couldn't resist teasing her. Meanwhile, Meng Tian found himself equally flustered as he remembered their dinner together. The next day, everyone on campus was shocked to see Fang Yu, the queen of the campus, eating in the canteen, something she had always avoided due to concerns about cleanliness. Her appearance caused a buzz of curiosity among their friends. Sun Hao, amused, mentioned that Fang Yu and Meng Tian had dined together at his place the night before, making them both turn red as they tried to downplay it. Shortly afterward, Meng Tian received a call from Meng Lang's school. To his surprise, Meng Lang had gotten into a fight with a friend, as none of his friends believed he knew the queen of fighters, Fang Yu. As a result, the frustrated Meng Lang immediately ran off toward the campus. Fortunately, he soon encountered Fang Yu, who took him back to school. With her presence, the situation quickly smoothed over. Meng Lang's friends, now believers, made peace, and the boys forgave each other. Fang Yu even offered to train the students once a month, which thrilled the coach and students, who thanked Meng Lang for knowing someone as impressive as her. Later, Meng Tian gathered his younger siblings and encouraged them to be strong despite being just the three of them without their parents. Fang Yu, touched by his words, watched the siblings with a warm smile. To show his gratitude for her kindness, Meng Tian invited Fang Yu to join them for a walk. During their outing, they stumbled upon a hot dog stand hosting a contest. Unfortunately, Meng Lang and his younger sister were too young to join, so Meng Tian and Fang Yu decided to participate to cheer them up. They had fun competing, sharing moments of laughter and closeness. Covered in flour, they helped each other wipe it off, their shy smiles and glances lingering a bit longer than usual. However, their moment was interrupted by Meng Lang, who, with a small blush, reminded them that he too had a bit of a crush on Fang Yu. Sometime later, Meng Tian began working at Sun Hao's cafe. Unexpectedly, Yichen showed up and ordered a large amount of food, only to refuse to eat any of it. He claimed the presentation was terrible and made him lose his appetite, then demanded Meng Tian cover the bill, aiming to humiliate him and bring back the old fear Meng Tian once felt. However, this time, Meng Tian stood his ground, supported by Sun Hao and Yan'an, who both disliked Yi Chen's arrogant behavior. Shortly after, Bao Zi, the captain of the boxing club, arrived and sternly scolded Yi Chen, forcing him to leave in frustration. Embarrassed by the scene, Bao Zi apologized to Meng Tian for the disturbance. After the incident, Xiaomi and Yan'an walked Meng Tian home. When they arrived, they were surprised to see Fang Yu already there, happily playing with Meng Tian's younger siblings. They all shared a meal together, and during dinner, Yan'an couldn't resist asking if there was anything romantic going on between Fang Yu and Meng Tian. Xiaomi, noticing Fang Yu's discomfort, quickly changed the topic. Later, as they were leaving, Xiaomi privately asked Fang Yu what had sparked such a drastic change in her. Xiaomi suspected Fang Yu had feelings for Meng Tian, but Fang Yu blushed and brushed it off, insisting that Meng Tian wasn't attractive to her. Unluckily, Meng Tian overheard this, and though he hadn't meant to eavesdrop, he walked away, feeling self-conscious and deciding to distance himself from her. The next day, the campus library was bustling when, unexpectedly, Fang Yu entered, scanning the shelves as if searching for something specific. Her presence alone drew attention, especially when she discreetly picked out several romance novels. Just as she settled with the books, Meng Tian approached her. Caught off guard, Fang Yu quickly tried to hide the novels, looking flustered and nervous. But Meng Tian was only there to talk about the bike she'd given him. He explained that he didn't feel right accepting such a generous gift without repaying her somehow, and asked if there was any way he could show his gratitude. Fang Yu's nervousness slowly faded as she listened, but her thoughts grew more restless after their conversation. Feeling unsure of her emotions, Fang Yu decided to seek advice from her professor, Chen Hua, though she used a pseudonym to keep her identity hidden. After listening, Chen Hua suggested that the young man Fang Yu spoke of might eventually drift away if she didn't show him her true feelings. This answer made Fang Yu anxious, and she pressed further, eventually receiving advice to find the courage to open up and clarify her feelings. On her way home, Fang Yu's thoughts swirled with memories of Meng Tian. She imagined asking him on a date, and in her daydream, they strolled together, laughing, sharing ice cream, and simply enjoying each other's company. But her fantasy was short-lived. She snapped back to reality, with her cheeks flushing at the thought. Meanwhile, back at Meng Tian's home, trouble arose when Meng Lang suddenly complained of intense stomach pain. Fortunately, Yan'an happened to be nearby and immediately took Meng Lang to the hospital. After a thorough examination, the doctors discovered that his illness had been caused by tainted food, intentionally contaminated as a cruel act by Yi Chen. Furious, Meng Tian set out for Yi Chen's campus, determined to confront him. Meng Tian tried to confront Yi Chen, but instead of facing him directly, he was accused of causing trouble at the club. Fortunately, Bao Zi stepped in and promised Meng Tian that he would investigate Yi Chen's possible involvement in Meng Lang's food contamination. As the tension rose, Fang Yu and her friends arrived to support Meng Tian, intensifying the atmosphere further. However, Chen Hua was already present to keep everyone calm and prevent any escalation. After the incident, Meng Tian, Fang Yu, and their friends were summoned by the campus director, Xiao Zeng, and given a stern lecture. Meng Tian was now at risk of losing his scholarship and being expelled from the campus altogether. However, Fang Yu and her friends quickly defended him, even declaring that they would leave the campus with him if he were expelled. Deeply moved by their loyalty, Meng Tian realized how much his friends cared. For the first time, instead of wanting to leave the university, he found himself pleading with Xiao Zeng for another chance. Fang Yu and her friends' support inspired him, and he resolved to become stronger to protect those he loved. Later, Meng Tian met with Fang Yu privately to thank her. Fang Yu, feeling shy, brushed it off and insisted her actions weren't because of any feelings for him. Meng Tian, caught off guard, tried to lighten the moment, and though both of them clearly cared for each other, neither was ready to admit it. As Fang Yu spent more time with Meng Tian, she started to change. She began enjoying the simpler things in life, like sipping tea from a plain cup, something she would have once overlooked. Coming from a wealthy family, Fong Yu was used to luxury, yet now she found herself smiling at the thought of Meng Tian and appreciating these small, everyday pleasures. One evening on her way home, Fong Yu stopped by a small cafe she often passed by, hoping to chat with the clown in the rabbit costume, who was actually Meng Tian. She ordered a coffee and shared her thoughts, confiding in the clown about her struggle to act naturally around the person she liked. Silently listening, Meng Tian realized she was talking about him, but Fong Yu hadn't recognized him under the costume. The following day, Meng Tian resumed his training, with Yan'an by his side, practicing evasive moves. As always, Yan'an found ways to tease him playfully, drawing a scolding from Xiaomi, who warned her about taking advantage of Meng Tian's kindness. Later, Meng Tian took on a new part-time job at a car wash. As he worked, Sun Hao, Xiaomi, and Yan'an showed up, offering to lend a hand. Meng Tian initially refused, not wanting to trouble them, but they were insistent and stayed to help. When Fong Yu heard about this, she, too, arrived at the car wash pretending to be a customer cleaning her car. Secretly, she just wanted to be part of the group and share the work with Meng Tian. Together, they washed cars, laughing and chatting as they worked. Fong Yu seemed genuinely happy, her laughter ringing out as she stole glances at Meng Tian. Meng Tian, in turn, found himself watching her, appreciating her unguarded joy. When the day was over, Meng Tian thanked his friends sincerely for their help. Though he hadn't expected them to join him, he was touched by their friendship and couldn't deny the warmth he felt in their company. The following day, Fong Yu asked Xiaomi to join her for training at the Taekwondo Academy, but Xiaomi politely declined. Then, an idea struck Fong Yu. She could invite Meng Tian instead. Moments later, she explained that she had promised to share her Taekwondo skills with Meng Tian's siblings and their friends at the academy and hoped he would assist her. Secretly, she wanted to spend more time with him. Just as she was discussing this with Meng Tian, Sun Hao appeared, volunteering himself as Fong Yu's assistant. Annoyed by his eagerness, Fong Yu was relieved when Meng Tian stepped in, explaining that he felt responsible for helping with his siblings. At the same time, Fong Yu smiled, pleased with his initiative. Soon after, Fong Yu and Meng Tian arrived at the Taekwondo Academy, where they taught Meng Tian's siblings and their friends. The session was filled with laughter and excitement, and everyone enjoyed learning from Fong Yu and Meng Tian. After the class, they walked back to campus, chatting lightly about Taekwondo and Meng Tian's passion for boxing. On their way, they noticed a little child crying because their kite was stuck in a tree. Without hesitation, Fong Yu climbed up, freed the kite, and returned it to the grateful child. At that time, Meng Tian was moved by her kindness, and they exchanged shy smiles, each blushing a little. When they reached the campus, Fong Yu invited Meng Tian to spar in the boxing ring. She threw several punches, but Meng Tian only defended himself, never hitting back. Frustrated, Fong Yu asked him what he was afraid of. Meng Tian then revealed the painful memory of his father, who had accidentally injured an opponent so badly that the man could never fight again. Fong Yu listened and encouraged Meng Tian to confront his fears, so the past wouldn't hold him back any longer. Later that evening, as Meng Tian returned home, he encountered Yi Chun, who was waiting to challenge him. This time, however, Meng Tian had newfound confidence. Standing up to Yi Chun, he warned him to be prepared for a future match in the boxing ring. Yi Chun, caught off guard, left, surprised by Meng Tian's assertiveness. The encounter left Meng Tian feeling stronger and more self-assured. Before the tournament, both campuses hosted a joint party, allowing all the students to attend. As the female students entered, they had to pass through a metal detector, which revealed that many, including Yan'an, had brought small weapons. During the party, Meng Tian's appearance caused quite a stir. Dressed in an elegant suit, he looked strikingly handsome, drawing the attention of all the girls. Fong Yu couldn't help but admire him from afar, secretly hoping he might ask her to dance. Noticing Yan'an making her way toward Meng Tian, Xiaomi quickly intervened, subtly urging Fong Yu to approach him instead. However, Fong Yu felt too shy to make a move. A moment later, she saw Meng Tian slipping away and decided to follow him to a quiet park nearby. She approached him with her usual playful excuses, and they exchanged compliments, each blushing. Then, with endearing hesitation, Meng Tian asked Fang Yu if she could teach him to dance, confessing that he'd never danced before. In the park's gentle evening light, they practiced together, their steps bringing them closer. The soft music of the night added to the moment's magic as they exchanged shy glances and smiles. Meng Tian couldn't help but recall their first encounters when Fang Yu had been cold and stern with him. Hearing this, Fang Yu laughed softly, feeling warmth and happiness, knowing how far they had come. Not long after, Fang Yu invited Meng Tian to her home and introduced him to her younger brother, Fang Zhue, who would be sparring with him. As they exchanged greetings, Fang Zhue couldn't help but mention how Meng Tian had managed to soften his sister's personality and change her attitude. Embarrassed, Fang Yu quickly tried to change the topic, then initiated the match between Meng Tian and her brother. Surprisingly, Meng Tian won the match against Fang Zhue, which left Fang Yu quietly impressed. Before Fang Zhue left, he made a teasing remark about Meng Tian's connection with Fang Yu, causing her to become flustered and annoyed once more. Later, Fang Yu and Meng Tian sat together on her terrace, chatting casually. It was clear that Fang Yu's attitude toward Meng Tian was more open than before. She even shared stories from her past, including her complex relationship with her grandfather. During this time, Meng Tian listened intently, telling her that she was one of the people who had inspired him to grow stronger. Their conversation flowed easily until a comfortable silence fell over them. Yet the quiet brought an unexpected awkwardness that carried into the car as Fang Yu drove Meng Tian to his workplace. When they arrived, Meng Tian was surprised to find Yan already there, ready to help him with his tasks. After finishing up, they went back to Meng Tian's house to have dinner together. Unexpectedly, Fang Yu arrived as well, bringing an abundance of food to share. However, upon seeing Yan already there, laughing and sitting close to Meng Tian, Fang Yu grew disheartened. She decided to leave without saying a word. Back at home, Fang Yu sat alone with the food she had brought, mumbling to herself and eating it all in frustration. Watching her behavior, Fang Zhue quickly caught on and teased her, sensing that she was jealous. Not long after, Xiaomi tried to help Fang Yu get closer to Meng Tian on campus, keeping Yanan away. However, Yanan managed to outwit Xiaomi by cooking her a delicious meal. Known for her cooking skills, Yanan's food won Xiaomi over, allowing her to spend more time with Meng Tian. This left Fang Yu fuming, especially when Yanan sent her playful videos of herself with Meng Tian. At the same time, Xiaomi could only apologize to Fang Yu, admitting that she couldn't resist Yanan's cooking. Determined not to lose, Fang Yu decided to learn how to cook. She watched YouTube tutorials hoping to master it quickly. When she finished, she proudly asked Fang Zhue to taste her food. Unfortunately, her cooking was so unpleasant that Fang Zhue quietly gave it to his employees, who all ended up with stomach aches. Meanwhile, Meng Tian, who was in the middle of training, suddenly had to stop due to an injury. He was in too much pain to perform his usual work as the clown at the cafe. Seeing his distress, Yanan volunteered to take his place, and though hesitant, Meng Tian accepted. On that same day, Fang Yu visited the cafe, sharing a love story with the rabbit clown as she had done before. When she finished her story, the clown removed the mask, revealing Yanan underneath. Fang Yu was shocked, but Yanan immediately explained that Meng Tian had been the clown listening to her this entire time. Fang Yu felt stunned, realizing how much of her private thoughts and feelings Meng Tian had unknowingly discovered. Later, Fang Yu met up with Xiaomi and shared her recent experiences, especially the surprise of discovering Meng Tian had been the clown all along. Xiaomi had already suspected Fang Yu's growing feelings for Meng Tian. She even noticed the small oil burn on Fang Yu's hand from her cooking experiments, finally piecing together her efforts to impress him. Xiaomi then offered to help Fang Yu get closer to Meng Tian, encouraging her to be more open about her feelings. Comparing Fang Yu to Yanan, who was always confident in showing her affection, Xiaomi gently urged Fang Yu to be brave. Soon after, while Fang Yu was gathering the courage to express her feelings, Meng Tian approached her unexpectedly, greeting her warmly. Flustered by his sudden arrival, Fang Yu forgot everything she'd rehearsed and grew tongue-tied. Just as Fang Yu finally mustered the words, a bell rang, interrupting her, and the moment passed. Determined not to give up, Fong Yu quickly devised a new plan. She would cook for Meng Tian. Moments later, she rushed to Sun Hao's place and asked him to teach her some basic recipes. After practicing, Fong Yu invited Xiaomi to taste her cooking. Though nervous, Xiaomi tried to stay supportive and even brought stomach medicine just in case. To her relief, Fong Yu's cooking turned out surprisingly good, and she happily complimented her. Encouraged by Xiaomi's praise, Fong Yu decided it was time to share her feelings with Meng Tian. Xiaomi, thrilled by her determination, cheered her on. Meanwhile, Meng Tian was sitting in a park with Sun Hao, engrossed in conversation. When Fong Yu arrived and joined Sun Hao, she seemed very close to him, sparking irritation in Meng Tian. Frustrated, he later vented his emotions by hitting a punching bag, taking out his annoyance over what he saw. Noticing his intense focus, Xiaomi approached him, encouraging him to relax and inviting him to join her for a bite. However, Meng Tian found himself even more irritated when he saw Fong Yu and Sun Hao sharing food, their closeness stirring his jealousy. Soon after, Yan'an arrived, bringing food she'd prepared especially for Meng Tian. She leaned in closely as they talked, and when Fong Yu saw this, her frustration reached its peak. Angry and hurt, she headed straight to the training room, where she began furiously punching a bag, releasing her pent-up emotions. Xiaomi, seeing her friend's distress, gently approached and suggested they have a serious conversation about her feelings for Meng Tian. Additionally, to help Fong Yu process her emotions, Xiaomi shared the story of a legendary boxing move that she intended to teach her. To her shock, this was the same move that had ended Uncle Ji Mian's life, and the reminder stirred deep feelings within her. The following day, the martial arts tournament began. In his first match, Meng Tian achieved a decisive victory, and his next opponent was Yi Chun. In the early rounds, Meng Tian found himself on the defensive, with Yi Chun attacking him fiercely. But Meng Tian's resilience paid off as he managed to withstand Yi Chun's strikes and eventually turned the match in his favor, ending with Yi Chun fainting from Meng Tian's powerful attacks. After the match, Xiao Zeng congratulated him, recognizing his skill and perseverance. Meng Tian was filled with gratitude for his supportive friends, and they celebrated together at a restaurant, surrounding him with warmth and encouragement. After the celebration, Yan'an suddenly walked up to Meng Tian and offered to walk home with him. Fong Yu, watching from a distance, felt a surge of jealousy but kept quiet, masking her emotions. The following day on campus, she crossed paths with Yan'an, who acted as if nothing unusual had happened, carrying on in her usual cheerful way. A few days later, Fong Yu had to stay away from campus to take care of some personal matters. During her absence, Meng Tian found himself lost in thought, missing her presence and remembering their moments together. Fong Yu, meanwhile, missed Meng Tian just as much, constantly wondering what he was up to. One day, after encouragement from Xiaomi, Meng Tian decided to visit Fong Yu at her office. With newfound courage, he invited her to join him for a day at the amusement park. Fong Yu declined at first, explaining that she had too much work, but inside, she felt thrilled by his invitation. Later, after finishing work, Fong Yu decided to surprise Meng Tian by bringing food to his house. When she arrived, she saw Xiaomi and Yan'an already there, standing outside Meng Tian's house, facing off with Yi Chun and his gang. Yi Chun, still holding a grudge against Meng Tian, had shown up for revenge. Apparently, Meng Tian wasn't home from work yet, so Fong Yu and her friends quickly confronted Yi Chun, inviting him and his group to settle things at the campus training area. In the end, Fong Yu and her friends defeated Yi Chun and his group, ensuring they kept the fight a secret from Meng Tian. Soon after, Meng Tian returned home and was surprised to find Fong Yu, Xiaomi, and Yan'an with his younger siblings, chatting and enjoying the food they brought. Seeing them so immersed in their meal, he asked why they had come, but they brushed it off, each taking a bite and not revealing anything. At that moment, Fong Yu felt a bit disappointed since her surprise meal went unnoticed. After dinner, Fong Yu stepped outside for a moment, feeling the need to gather her thoughts. Meng Tian noticed her leaving and followed. Alone together, Fong Yu finally admitted that she was still considering his amusement park invitation. She also explained that her responsibilities at work and to her grandfather sometimes made it difficult to take time for herself. The next morning, as Fong Yu was on her way to the office, she couldn't stop thinking about Meng Tian's invitation. She genuinely wanted to go with him, but felt her obligations would hold her back. Lost in thought, she didn't realize her driver was taking an unfamiliar route. When she asked, the driver explained that her brother, Fong Zhua, had planned a little surprise for her, rearranging her schedule so she could spend the day with her friends. Fong Zhua had even picked out an adorable outfit for her to wear, and her driver was now taking Fong Yu straight to the amusement park. At the same time, Meng Tian and the others were just arriving at the park. Before long, Fong Yu arrived, wearing an adorable, feminine outfit that left everyone, especially Meng Tian, captivated. Together, they explored the park, laughing and enjoying the rides. Xiaomi cleverly intervened whenever Yan'an tried to get between Fong Yu and Meng Tian. The pair shared a thrilling ride that Fong Yu had wanted to experience for ages, both of them exhilarated by the rush. Later, they ventured into the haunted house, with Xiaomi tagging along. Inside, Meng Tian reached out to hold Fong Yu's hand, complimenting her beauty and offering comfort in the eerie surroundings. Fong Yu blushed, and the two exchanged shy smiles, realizing how close they had become, their feelings deepening in the midst of their playful adventure. The next day, Fong Yu arrived on campus with a bright, cheerful smile. She joined Meng Tian and Xiaomi as they were practicing, clearly in high spirits. Shortly afterward, Yan'an arrived with news. They had all been summoned by Xiaozeng. When they gathered, Xiaozeng gave them an unexpected task, traveling to Macau for a demonstration match to help recruit new students. A few days later, Fong Yu encountered a different problem. Her grandfather insisted she meet with Guan Yin, the man she was arranged to marry. Guan Yin even came to campus to pick her up. By chance, Meng Tian was passing by and encountered Guan Yin, who asked if he had seen Fong Yu. Soon after, Fong Yu and Xiaomi approached, and Guan Yin invited her to join him for a meal. Fong Yu tried to decline, but Xiaomi, clearly plotting something, encouraged her to accept. At the same time, Meng Tian, watching quietly from a distance, observed their interaction with a slightly troubled expression. Later that day, Fong Yu, Xiaomi, and Guan Yin were seated in a restaurant. But Xiaomi had her own plan. She invited all their classmates and campus leaders to join them, creating a lively gathering. Guan Yin, uncomfortable and irritated by the unplanned company, struggled to hide his frustration. After the meal, Fong Yu found herself thinking of Meng Tian, especially when she was about to part ways with him. Sensing this, Xiaomi devised a plan to nudge Meng Tian into admitting his feelings for Fong Yu. Meanwhile, Meng Tian couldn't shake the thoughts of the previous day's lunch with Guan Yin. It was clear he was feeling jealous and unsettled, thinking Fong Yu might be warming up to Guan Yin. The next day, during training, Meng Tian and Fong Yu both seemed distant and cold. During this time, Xiaomi arrived and casually brought up the lunch with Guan Yin, intentionally stirring Meng Tian's jealousy. His anger was evident, though he tried to keep it contained. Once Xiaomi left, Meng Tian seized the moment to warn Fong Yu to be careful around Guan Yin. Fong Yu tried to encourage Meng Tian to express his feelings openly, but he held back, still awkward and uncertain. Frustrated with their inability to confess, Xiaomi couldn't understand why they kept hiding their feelings. At that moment, Meng Tian walked by, so Xiaomi launched into a story about the complications of a senior-junior relationship without naming names. Fong Yu panicked, accidentally knocking Xiaomi over, leaving her unconscious. Embarrassed, Fong Yu took Xiaomi away and hurriedly left, leaving Meng Tian in bewilderment. Later, while Meng Tian was at work, Guan Yin suddenly showed up, intending to belittle him for his humble background. Unfazed, Meng Tian picked up a water hose and sprayed Guan Yin, forcing him to retreat in a hurry. The next day, Sun Hao joined Meng Tian for a chat, and their conversation naturally turned to Fong Yu and her arranged marriage with Guan Yin. Neither of them liked the idea of her being with him. At first, Meng Tian suspected that Sun Hao might have feelings for Fong Yu, but Sun Hao quickly clarified. He had given up pursuing her because he knew she cared for Meng Tian. This revelation caught Meng Tian by surprise, but it brought him a sense of happiness, even though he still wondered if he was worthy of her. Later, deep in thought, Meng Tian rode his bike toward Fong Yu's home, intending to talk about their feelings. Along the way, he spotted her sitting inside the cafe where he worked as a clown. He parked his bike, walked over, and sat across from her. They then ordered drinks, and as they sipped, Meng Tian gathered the courage to ask her directly about her feelings for him. Fong Yu, taken by surprise, panicked and left the cafe in a hurry. But Meng Tian chased after her, gently catching her hand. Finally, they stood together and shared their true feelings, laughing as they recalled all the little moments that had made them feel jealous. The next day, they enjoyed lunch together in the cafeteria, exchanging warm smiles, their mutual feelings now out in the open and shared. The day of the big assignment finally arrived, and Meng Tian, along with his friend Xiaomi, Sun Hao, and Yan'an, headed to the airport, ready for their trip to Macau. Unfortunately, Fong Yu couldn't join them as her grandfather had arranged for her to travel to Dubai. Meanwhile, as Meng Tian and the others arrived in Macau and prepared for their competition, Fong Yu found herself stuck at the airport due to a flight delay. Taking advantage of the extra time, she eagerly tuned in to watch her friends' matches from afar, cheering them on in spirit. After the competition, Meng Tian took a moment to visit his former boss. Over a warm, nostalgic meal, he shared stories about his new girlfriend, bringing a delighted smile to his boss's face. After the meal, Meng Tian strolled alone by a fountain, lost in thought, his mind drifting to Fong Yu. Just then, he heard a familiar voice behind him, and it was Fong Yu. She had decided to make a quick stop in Macau before Dubai. During this time, they exchanged joyful smiles, and as they sat by the fountain, they promised to create happy memories together in Macau, leaving behind any bitter moments from the past. Later, they wandered hand in hand through a vibrant night market, both dressed in matching outfits. As they explored, they came across a rabbit doll that brought back memories of the time when Fong Yu had unknowingly met Meng Tian in his clown rabbit costume. Though she hadn't recognized him then, the memory now made them both blush with warmth. Eventually, it was time for Fong Yu to continue her journey to Dubai. Just before they parted, Meng Tian surprised her with a rabbit doll he had secretly bought. Fong Yu's face lit up with happiness as she hugged the gift, treasuring the thoughtfulness behind it. The following day, Meng Tian and his friends prepared to head back to campus. As they waited, Sun Hao noticed an incoming call from Fong Yu on Meng Tian's phone. Smiling, he gently teased Meng Tian about his budding romance. They shared a laugh, but decided to keep it between them, agreeing not to share too much with the others. Though officially dating, Meng Tian and Fong Yu still felt shy about their relationship. One evening, Fong Yu called Meng Tian just to hear his voice. Despite the quiet awkwardness, they struggled to hide their longing for each other, exchanging warm words that reflected how much they missed one another. A few days later, Fong Yu returned home and invited Meng Tian to meet her at the campus park. There, she surprised him with a rabbit doll as a sweet response to the one he had given her. Unbeknownst to them, Yan'an watched from a distance, her heart sinking in jealousy, and she quickly walked away, leaving them to their happy moment. Meanwhile, Fong Zhuo, sensing that Fong Yu was in love, decided to help out. He offered to watch over Meng Tian's younger siblings, giving Fong Yu and Meng Tian more freedom to enjoy their time together without worrying about Meng Tian's siblings. With this freedom, Meng Tian and Fong Yu planned a beautiful day at the beach. As they arrived, the ocean waves and warm sunshine set the perfect atmosphere for a romantic outing. Moments later, they rode bicycles along the sandy shore, laughing as they noticed other couples enjoying the day around them. After the ride, they sat on a quiet spot by the sea, hands intertwined, gazing out at the endless horizon. Their conversation flowed more naturally than ever, and even Meng Tian, usually modest and reserved, found himself sharing compliments and sweet words with Fong Yu. Some time later, Fong Yu and her younger brother, Fong Zhuo, were summoned by their grandfather, Fong Shuo. At the meeting, Fong Shuo firmly instructed Fong Yu to stay away from Meng Tian because of his lower social status. He had learned about Meng Tian from Guanyin, Fong Yu's arranged match. Despite her grandfather's wishes, Fong Yu stood her ground and refused to enter a relationship with Meng Tian. The argument became so heated that Fong Yu stormed out of the house, seeking refuge at her friend Xiaomi's place. Knowing this, Xiaomi and her father, kind and welcoming, invited her to stay with them as long as she needed. A short while later, Fang Yu went shopping and decided to bring her groceries to Meng Tian's house. She prepared a delicious bowl of noodles for him and his younger siblings. As they ate, Meng Tian sweetly fed Fang Yu a bite, sparking a moment of quiet romance between them, both of them radiating happiness. The next day, Fang Yu was called to the campus office by Xiaozeng. Apparently, Fang Shua had asked the university to process Fang Yu's resignation, and Xiaozeng, respecting her family's authority, had no choice but to comply. Despite this, Fang Yu wasn't overly worried. She then took a seat in the campus park and read articles about what couples typically do together, trying to gather ideas. Later, Fang Yu invited Meng Tian for a meal, where she tried out some of the couple activity tips she had read. While they enjoyed their time, a few other female students spotted them, and soon enough, whispers about Fang Yu and Meng Tian spread through the campus. Not long after, Fang Shua paid an unexpected visit to the car wash where Meng Tian worked. At that moment, he asked Meng Tian to stay away from Fang Yu, offering to fulfill any wish he had if he agreed. Meng Tian, however, politely declined, assuring him that he would only step back if Fang Yu asked him to. Without another word, Fang Shua turned and left. Meanwhile, Fang Yu and Xiaomi were out for a casual walk when they ran into Sun Hao and Yanan. Although they greeted each other, Yanan was still visibly jealous of Fang Yu's relationship with Meng Tian. The group soon decided to go to a nearby sports facility to let off some steam, where they unexpectedly crossed paths with Guan Yin. Seeing him there, they all agreed to a friendly competition, which ended with Fang Yu and her friends claiming victory. Back at home, Fang Zhua, worried about Fang Yu's disappearance, began searching for her. He went to campus and sought Yanan's help to bring Fang Yu to a nearby training facility so he could speak with her. When he finally met her, Fang Zhua informed her that their grandfather had fallen ill and had requested her return home. This softened Fang Yu's heart, and she reluctantly agreed to go back. In the days that followed, Fang Yu continued to see Meng Tian, and things were mostly calm. One evening, she visited his home again, and they enjoyed a simple meal of noodles together with Meng Tian's younger siblings. As they were laughing and chatting, a sudden power outage occurred due to heavy rain, which wasn't the first time this had happened at Meng Tian's house. At dinner one evening, Fang Shua and Fang Zhua sat together, discussing Fang Yu, who hadn't returned home for days. Fang Zhua suggested she might be staying at Meng Tian's house. Hearing this, a calculating expression crossed Fang Shua's face as if he was devising a plan regarding her relationship with Meng Tian. The next day, Meng Tian set off to work at the cafe, only to find it closed. His manager informed him that the cafe had been sold, and it was no longer running as it used to. Feeling unsettled, Meng Tian headed to his second job at the car wash. Only to be met with more bad news, his boss explained that they had been forced to close after receiving reports for supposedly not meeting national standards. At that moment, Meng Tian stood in disbelief, realizing that both his jobs had been taken from him in a single day. His troubles weren't over yet. That evening, the landlord came by and informed Meng Tian that the house had been sold to a new buyer who offered a high price. Despite Meng Tian's attempts to negotiate, the landlord insisted that they had only 2 days to move out. Trying to stay strong for his younger siblings, Meng Tian put on a brave face, even though he was overwhelmed with worry. The following day, Meng Tian and his siblings began packing up their belongings, preparing to leave their home. Thankfully, Sun Hao and his mother generously offered them temporary shelter at their home. Meng Tian, filled with gratitude, promised to help at their food stall as a way to show his appreciation. Not long after, Meng Tian received a call from Fang Zhua, who asked him to return to his former home. When they met, Fang Zhua revealed that all the misfortunes Meng Tian had faced were part of a scheme orchestrated by Fang Shua. In the end, they agreed to keep this secret from Fang Yu until Fang Zhua could find a way to resolve the issue with their grandfather. A few days later, trouble showed up at Sun Hao's door. Fang Shua's men visited and tried to buy both the food stall and the house, pressuring Sun Hao's mother to sell. Sensing the threat, Sun Hao firmly refused, which nearly led to a violent altercation. Just in time, Xiaomi appeared and helped them stand their ground, eventually driving Feng Shua's men away. Meanwhile, Feng Yu decided to visit Meng Tian and his siblings. Arriving at the house, she was shocked when the landlord told her they had already moved out. Her worry grew, and soon after, Yan'an reached out, asking to meet with her. Yan'an had heard about Meng Tian's struggles, including the fact that Feng Yu's grandfather was behind them. Distraught, Yan'an wanted to confront the matter directly, unable to stand by while Meng Tian suffered because of his relationship with Feng Yu. But Feng Yu was still unaware of the full situation, as no one had informed her. When Feng Yu and Yan'an met, the tension quickly rose as they argued. Finally, Xiaomi stepped in, calming them down, and Yan'an explained the entire situation to Feng Yu. Furious, Feng Yu rushed home to confront her grandfather. During their heated argument, Feng Shuo revealed a shocking truth. Uncle Ji Mian, whom Feng Yu deeply respected, had died because of a fight with Meng Tian's father. Feng Yu was devastated, her emotions a mix of confusion and disbelief as she struggled to comprehend the situation. In the end, Feng Yu went to meet Meng Tian to confront him directly and find out the truth. Meng Tian, unable to avoid the conversation any longer, shared his regret about his father's actions and admitted how painful the memories were. Feng Yu listened in shock, her heart heavy with sadness and confusion. Deeply distressed, Feng Yu returned home. Seeing her unhappiness, Feng Shuo decided to confront their grandfather. He told Feng Shuo how much Feng Yu's happiness depended on Meng Tian and how he was upset that Feng Shuo had taken that joy from her. Feng Shuo also asked his grandfather to stop meddling in Meng Tian's life and in the lives of his younger siblings. In the days that followed, Feng Yu slowly began to distance herself from Meng Tian, suggesting that it might be best if they part ways. Meng Tian, although heartbroken, tried to accept this difficult reality. He understood that he would never gain Feng Shua's approval and tried to stay strong, even though his feelings for Feng Yu remained. The next day, Meng Tian went to Xiaomi's house to explain the situation and asked her to look after Feng Yu. He shared the painful story of his father's actions, which had indirectly caused the death of Feng Yu's uncle. Moved by his story, Xiaomi's father hugged him, revealing that Meng Tian was the son of a fellow martial arts disciple. He offered to teach Meng Tian a powerful technique called the Death Strike, the very technique that had led to Uncle Ji Mian's death. Meng Tian declined the offer, saying he wanted to avoid causing harm to anyone with such a move. Impressed by Meng Tian's compassion, Xiaomi decided to tell Feng Yu. However, when she approached Feng Yu, she found her friend deeply conflicted and trying to hide her emotions. Feng Yu seemed to need space to sort through her feelings, and despite Xiaomi's encouragement, the distance between Feng Yu and Meng Tian only seemed to widen. Some time later, Meng Tian met with Feng Shuo, who invited him over. Feng Shuo had arranged for Meng Tian and his siblings to return to their former home and offered it to them on a rental basis. Meng Tian gratefully accepted, agreeing to pay rent as a way to maintain his independence. He also asked Feng Shuo to help him reconnect with Feng Yu. Meanwhile, Feng Yu took her frustration to her training, fiercely striking a sandbag as she struggled with her emotions. Just then, Meng Tian approached her, trying to share the impact of his father's fight with Uncle Ji Mian on his own family. He explained how the tragedy had haunted him and his siblings, and how meeting her had given him new courage and confidence. At that moment, Feng Yu listened quietly, touched by his honesty. Moved by Meng Tian's heartfelt words, Feng Yu's anger softened, and she began to reconsider her feelings. While she was processing this, Feng Shuo spoke with Feng Shuo, telling him that he had helped Meng Tian and his siblings return to their old home. Feng Shuo questioned his loyalty, but Feng Shuo calmly insisted that Feng Yu should have the freedom to choose her future. Not long after, Meng Tian moved back into his old home with the support of his friends, including Feng Yu. Though things were initially awkward, their relationship slowly began to heal. In the days that followed, the tension faded, and they found themselves laughing together once more, leaving the shadows of their painful past behind. As Meng Tian continued his training with Feng Yu for the upcoming tournament, he noticed a change in her mood, but tried to stay focused. When the day of the tournament finally arrived, they gathered at the arena with friends and supporters. While Xiaomi competed, a woman suddenly approached Fang Yu and showed her an old photo of Uncle Ji Mian from his younger days. The woman claimed to be Uncle Ji Mian's former wife and offered information about his death, which immediately unsettled Fang Yu. After a short conversation, the woman left, leaving Fang Yu feeling uneasy and confused. Meanwhile, Fang Shuo received a call from the same woman. She was one of his subordinates, instructed by Fang Shuo to deceive Fang Yu with false information. Fang Shuo had fed her lies, implying that Meng Tian's father had committed some wrongdoing before his match with Uncle Ji Mian. Knowing Fang Yu was emotionally vulnerable, he felt confident she would easily believe this fabrication, driving her further from Meng Tian. The following day, when Meng Tian invited Fang Yu to their usual training, she showed up with a distant look and suppressed emotions. At that moment, she brought up Uncle Ji Mian's story again, but this time her attitude was colder and more distant, tainted by the misinformation she'd been given. Without explanation, she made the decision to break off her relationship with Meng Tian, leaving him heartbroken and confused. A few days later, Fang Zhuo reached out to Xiaomi, worried about Fang Yu's sudden disappearance. Xiaomi quickly found Meng Tian and asked if he'd seen her. Meng Tian explained how Fang Yu's behavior had shifted during the tournament, but he was still baffled by her recent actions. Meanwhile, Fang Yu had gone to Uncle Ji Mian's grave, reflecting on the hurtful words of his supposed former wife. Fang Zhuo arrived at the grave shortly after, but Fang Yu had already left. That evening, a heavy rainstorm poured down. Xiaomi found Fang Yu standing alone outside her house, drenched and looking lost. Seeing this, she quickly brought her inside, helping her dry off and get warm. Unable to hold back, Xiaomi gently but firmly confronted Fang Yu, questioning her recent behavior and how she had pushed Meng Tian away. At that moment, the usually strong Fang Yu broke down, her emotions overwhelming her as she finally let herself cry, releasing the turmoil she had been hiding. The next day, Fang Yu appeared calm and composed. During breakfast, she shocked her grandfather by requesting permission to study abroad. Fang Zhuo was stunned and immediately opposed the idea, remembering how happy she'd been with Meng Tian only a few months prior. But now, it seemed all that happiness had faded, and Fang Yu appeared as if she had given up on her dreams entirely. On her final day, Fang Yu returned to campus to submit her resignation letter and say goodbye to her friends. Her face looked lifeless, her eyes empty. As a result, Meng Tian hurried to meet her, desperate to understand her sudden decision. But Fang Yu only gave vague answers, using Uncle Ji Mian's past and the lies she'd been told as excuses. In an effort to help her stay, Meng Tian even offered to leave the campus himself, but she refused, insisting that he should stay for the sake of his siblings. Just then, Guanyin arrived to take Fang Yu away. At first, she hesitated, wanting to refuse his offer. But when she saw Meng Tian approaching, she decided to get into Guanyan's car, hoping the sight would hurt Meng Tian enough to make him resent her and let go. As she glanced back at Meng Tian through the car window, her heart ached, but she held her gaze, determined to make him think she had moved on. As the days passed, Meng Tian found himself clinging to memories of his time with Fang Yu. The moments they'd shared lingered in his heart, refusing to fade, even though she was now working somewhere far away. One day, Guanyin showed up at the car wash where Meng Tian worked and tried to intimidate him, belittling him in front of his coworkers. At the same time, Meng Tian's boss, who saw the incident, reported it to Fang Zhuo. Unbeknownst to Meng Tian, Fang Zhuo had actually purchased the car wash, giving him access to all its CCTV footage. Furious, Fang Zhuo immediately informed Fang Yu and their grandfather about Guanyan's behavior. The evidence was undeniable. Guanyan's intentions were rooted in greed, showing his interest in Fang Yu was only for her wealth. Determined to set things straight, Fang Yu invited Guanyin for lunch, arranging for the media to be present. During their meal, she calmly revealed the proof of his malicious behavior. In the end, the media captured everything, and Guanyan's reputation quickly plummeted. Enraged and disappointed, Fang Shuo called off the engagement and severed all ties with Guanyan's family. For Fang Zhuo, this was a victory. His grandfather had finally realized Guanyan's true character, putting an end to any plans of a marriage to Fang Yu. Soon afterward, Fong Yu visited Meng Tian's siblings and her school friends to say goodbye. Meng Tian's siblings were visibly upset and abruptly left the room, hurt by her departure. Later that day, she waited for them at her house, inviting them for a farewell meal to apologize for leaving and to let them know how much they meant to her. Despite her attempts to move on, the memories of her time with Meng Tian continued to fill Fong Yu's mind. Eventually, Meng Tian reached out and invited her to the cafe where he worked. When they met, Meng Tian shared fond memories of her little habits and quirks he had come to know so well. As he spoke, tears formed in Fong Yu's eyes, touched by his kindness and understanding. She had tried so hard to push him away, hoping he'd grow to resent her, yet he only seemed to understand her more. That night, after they parted ways, Meng Tian was suddenly attacked in the street. His assailant was Wu Ji, Fong Yu's former rival, who had been waiting for an opportunity to use Meng Tian to draw her into a fight. In the end, Wu Ji managed to capture Meng Tian and hold him hostage at an undisclosed location. When the situation reached Fong Yu, she immediately contacted her friends, determined to find him. In the process, they learned that Yi Chun had previously plotted with both Guan Yin and Wu Ji to harm Meng Tian. Using the information provided by Yi Chun, they tracked down Wu Ji's hideout. But upon arrival, they were confronted by Wu Ji and his gang, who were ready for them. At that moment, Wu Ji promised to release Meng Tian, but only if Fong Yu could defeat him in a fight. Soon after, the two clashed in a high arena with steep drops, the stakes greater than ever. The battle was brutal, and despite her skill, Fong Yu was no match for Wu Ji's ferocity. She fought with everything she had, but was ultimately overpowered, her strength no match for his brutal attacks. Soon after, Xiaomi's father arrived at the scene and confronted Wu Ji. He revealed to Wu Ji that the legendary fighter he'd been searching for didn't truly exist. It was simply a fighter with a powerful move known as the Death Strike. Xiaomi's father then urged Meng Tian to learn this technique quickly, as it could help them in their dangerous situation. Though Meng Tian hesitated, considering Fong Yu's trauma related to the technique, Xiaomi's father finally convinced both Meng Tian and Fong Yu of its necessity. With a heavy heart, Meng Tian agreed to learn it, and within minutes, Xiaomi's father successfully taught him the move. Meng Tian soon faced Wu Ji in a fierce fight. At first, Wu Ji seemed to have the upper hand, landing quick and forceful attacks. But then, Meng Tian used his newly learned technique, turning the tide and defeating Wu Ji. Unfortunately, Wu Ji managed one final strike, causing Meng Tian to fall from a high ledge and lose consciousness. Just then, the police arrived and arrested Wu Ji and his gang. Meng Tian was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, and everyone, including the university president, Xiao Zeng, was informed. At the same time, Fong Yu stayed by his side. Looking after him through the long days he remained unconscious. Fong Shua, seeing how much Meng Tian meant to Fong Yu, postponed her overseas trip to allow her to care for him. During this time, Fong Yu took on Meng Tian's responsibilities, working as the bunny clown and washing cars, feeling the heavy burden Meng Tian carried daily. She shared the situation with Fong Zhua and her grandfather, who, now softened by the canceled marriage arrangement, offered to support Meng Tian's siblings' education. But despite the help, Fong Yu eventually had to prepare to leave for her studies abroad. With a heavy heart, she bid farewell to the still unconscious Meng Tian. The next day, Meng Tian finally awoke and they embraced warmly, overjoyed to be together again. Together, they visited Uncle Ji Mian's grave, where Fong Yu entrusted Fong Zhua with the care of Meng Tian's siblings in her absence. Then, surrounded by friends, Fong Yu and Meng Tian took a final walk down memory lane, cherishing their moments together. Though her departure was bittersweet, it strengthened Meng Tian's bond with those around him. A year passed, and Fong Yu returned, though only for a short visit. She gazed at the rabbit doll Meng Tian had given her, sparking memories. Her brother Fong Zhua entered, asking if she still had feelings for Meng Tian. Trying to hide her emotions, Fong Yu claimed she would try to move on, but Fong Zhua could see through her words. Soon after, Fong Zhua uncovered evidence proving Meng Tian's father's innocence and exposing their grandfather's collaboration with Uncle Ji Mian's former wife to damage Meng Tian's family's reputation. Fang Zhuo shared this with Fang Yu, who was devastated by her grandfather's manipulation. With no other option, Fang Zhuo ultimately admitted his attempts to keep Meng Tian and Fang Yu apart and to ruin Meng Tian's father's name, leaving Fang Yu heartbroken by his betrayal. With her emotions in turmoil, Fang Yu traveled to Macau, revisiting places where she and Meng Tian had made memories. As she wandered, she received a message from Meng Tian, asking to meet in a special place. Following his directions, Fang Yu found herself at the city fountain where they had once exchanged their heartfelt promises. After everything they had endured, Fang Yu and Meng Tian embraced, rekindling their love and officially reuniting as a couple. So, moral lesson from the story is falling in love is like juggling noodles. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes others throw in extra drama just for fun. And remember, if you can still hold on to each other through the mess, you're doing something right.